We'll figure it out.
Yes.
It's just 2 more years of my life. When I'm done, it'll be 12 years. I know this. Ask my husband. He'll tell me. Ask my kids. That's crazy.
What's the trick?
There's no trick.
Oh, to open it?
How about we just
Unplug the TV. We're doing that first. You need to charge right away.
I'm just gonna keep it so that being proactive versus
I think
reactive.
no, we're recording it.
Oh, so
It's easy when you get one open.
No, I'm embarrassed. Oh, this might be too big.
Here, I'll grab an extension cord, guys.
You okay?
Yeah.
Hi, Rich.
Hi, Rich.
This is way long, but. I'm right behind you, Jed.
All right.
There you go. So I haven't had a chance to set up the dinner yet because we've been doing some stuff here. So when we move over to executive and I get you all situated, I'll go and get that ready and then maybe we can take like a 10-minute break to get some snacks and food and whatnot. Is that okay?
Yeah, that works. Thank you. Thanks.
Extra close to it.
No, don't you?
No, just for the invoice. See that? You could mix that a little bit. That's interesting. On mine, it's not.
And I was at the University of Sunday Wednesday afternoon.
Also,
People from all around the state and just
it's just. It's just. Oh, no, I just want to do my little.
Breast kit specifically? Or the area?
Hello, gentlemen.
How are you?
Good. Had a little bit different weather for you today than the last time you were here, and the last time before
Yeah.
that.
When you went home, that was mega.
I know.
I told Christine, I said, it was like a blizzard.
Yeah.
It was really, it surprised me. And then when I got in the town, it wasn't, the valley was much.
A month before we had a board meeting, and I actually had to leave because my husband was texting me and he's like, people are sliding off the road. Like it's like, and it was the zero visibility thing. It's like,
some of it like.
Just
Yeah.
now, or what's it?
yeah, okay. That's, it just means it's on me.
Yep.
I did. Thank you.
There you go.
Perfecto.
Throw these in my backpack.
So when I'm done, I'm gonna turn everything off. And
connections like that.
and we'll take care of, I'll send you the recording and then we'll take care of everything. Right?
Yep, once we have the recordings, we'll get on that.
Okay.
I was there for a long time.
Yeah, flexing.
So you
Unless something.
I think it
Because we
depends.
should be able to. Almost.
And it worked.
And it does.
It does.
It does.
Today it was easier because I took.
I heard you say earlier that you were taking.
Yeah, tomorrow's my middle daughter's 13th birthday, so I want to take her to lunch and just let her hang, like chill for the rest of the day instead of, because her other sisters don't have, their birthdays are in July, so they don't ever have school during their birthday.
Yeah.
And
so
she
what
feels
comes
slighted
with
that she has to go to school. on her
I
birthday.
think it's crazy every time I've gone, so that way to Prescott.
No,
Can't slight the middle child or you're in trouble.
I'm sure you do.
But-
Are you a middle child?
I've never been.
Yes and no. I have a brother I've never met.
Okay,
So I would be the middle child,
yeah, yeah,
but we don't count them signing.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's the seventh house that we could pull our offer off. And we just got lucky enough that the lady said, I just want to go with the first bidder. And then,
I'll start. the
That's a
sound system.
beautiful.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, my
Oh.
mom
Recording,
lives up in
start the
Gilbert.
sound
She's
system.
like, oh, the trees, and it's.
Hey, Rich.
But it-
Liana said she'd be here about 4:05, so if you want to get started with the, I don't see a reason why we need to wait for all the procedural things.
Sure.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
Get this party started.
And this is a party, isn't it?
I'm gonna try and make it one, whether or not it's
Not a
successful.
very well attended party, however.
Excuse me?
You have the most important people.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Okay. We, are we good for some type of streaming situation?
We are recording this and we'll post it tomorrow. It's not a live stream though.
Welcome, we're calling this meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Humboldt Unified School District Governing Board. And we'll get started with our pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, would you please call roll?
President Adler.
Here.
Vice President Ruwald.
Here.
Board Member Roth.
Here.
Board Member Wolcott.
Here.
Board Member Maison. Let the record be stated, we do have a quorum and Ms. Maison is coming just shortly, so.
Thank you. Moving on, board members, you've seen our agenda. We'll need a motion to accept the agenda.
Move we accept the agenda as presented.
Second. Motion by Mrs. Roberts, second by Mr. Paul.
Aye.
Any opposed, motion carries. Now up to item 3A, which is discussion and overview of the agenda itself. And I'll turn that over to our student search consultants.
Thank you. Just busy evening tonight. I appreciate all of your input. There's a tremendous amount of material to absorb. And we've been all tired. We've been working real hard to make sure that you have all this information. And it does take time when you see it to go over it. So in front of you tonight, you have your packets, this packet, and it just has an overview of the invitation, and it does have a list of candidates, and we won't discuss that publicly at this juncture. But it gives you kind of a flavor of, you know, what we've been working with, and that's very important. You know, we will go over now, what is very important on your desk is a copy of the survey results. And, it takes time, obviously, to read all of the comments, and Jen did a beautiful job of collating all of the data. Then, you know, in the back of the report, and we're not going to read every page, we will go through the highlights, is the survey monkey, and that comes from the school district, goes directly to headquarters, and then they collated that, and then we blend both of these together. And so, you know, it is important to take a look on page 2 and have Jeff pop that up in a minute, and then he's going to talk about some of the results. But it is very, very important to look at the summary of the, you know, the responses and what we call, you know, the common themes. And I go over them and I study them and I look at them because in my mind, it tells the story about the school district, and the community. And so, you know, I want you to, you know, tonight and later on, we have more time to take a look at it and to study it, because then it also helps when we get into the question development. And of course, we'll talk indirectly about that in open session, but you've had an opportunity to respond to that as well. And so it is important to read these common themes on both page 2 and then on the beginning of page 22. All right, so having said that, I have Jen pop that up, and we'll go over it a little bit, and feel free at any time to ask questions, or if you're not even comfortable with something. We had to deduct a couple little things. We do not like when they use people's names. It's not fair because they can't defend themselves. So we do a little, I call it redacting. Other than that, this is pretty straightforward. Probably on the monkey, there's more, I call it commentary, where you could read. Some people wrote little, some people wrote big paragraphs, and it is very challenging to read. So John, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, board members, and thanks for having us tonight. I won't talk very long about this part, most of the key points, but just a few highlights is we collected information from March 27th through April 10th, both in person and through the online survey. And in total, we had, you know, about 250 people close that weighed in and gave their input to us. And we had a lot of, I mean, I've already said it was great being here that week, but all the face-to-face, that's always been my preferred mode. I love meeting with people and hearing them. So while you have a collation of comments, we also had a lot of anecdotal conversations too that sometimes get lost in translation in a written report. The other thing you have in there is a survey monkey, and the way our company likes to do that is just take verbatim and just share that with board members, so you have the verbatim. What you need to know is if you look in your report and just go to page 4, you'll see an example there of the first question was, what are the best attributes of the community served by HUSD? So what I did was I read all of the comments, and I took all the comments from the cards that we got, and I took all the comments from the Google form that we had, and I made a judgment on a lot of words and tried to put it in people. So you need to see that small rural community, and the online was mentioned 20 times, and then the in-person 53 times. You might read a big long paragraph, and what that came down to was small rural community. So I want you to know that there was some professional judgment by me on that. So as you go through and you look at the very long paragraphs and things, I just made a judgment on where to put it. And then what I did is I took both the online and the in-person, and I just folded them up. And then I ranked ordered from the most frequent responses to the least frequent responses. And that's how we generated the primary themes that emerged. And questions, when I went out and we went out and met with people, questions 1 and 2 are about articulating and being clear what would attract somebody to them. that may not know being here. So it's about the community and then the school district. Those are really important. How do other people feel about the surrounding areas and how do people feel about the school district? So that's what those two questions are primarily for. The third question was around the characteristics that we collectively, if you remember way back to when we first got together, we drew together about 5 things that we agreed upon, and then we added a few more that are really important to superintendencies. And so those are the characteristics. And what we were doing was saying, what are the characteristics of the people that want to give us input? And so you'll see the themes that emerge from the input on those characteristics. And then the last question that I think is just a beautiful question because it helps generate interview questions. And so what will happen there is what are the key issues facing the school district today? What's the superintendent going to walk into? And so that's really important. So the feedback that you'll see there, the themes that emerge, that's where a lot of the interview questions are generated, especially on that community forums when we get to that phase in a couple of weeks. And also a few for what you're going to end up seeing too. But I just wanted to give you kind of a broad overview of all that. And my slides are just a repeat of what you have. I don't need to go over them, but just you have on pages where 2 and 3, these were the primary themes that emerged. And then you can see where the data came from so that you understand that. I just wanted to give you a little bit of that. And again, I really enjoy doing things like this and seeing what your community feels about the community and the school district and the issues facing it. So it's very insightful, very insightful. And I will also add that the characteristics that you identified and the community identified, when we were screening candidates, and we screened all candidates, we were also looking for candidates that had a lot of those check boxes of the characteristics that you're seeking as a board and the community as the next leader. So that's a critical component that I failed to mention, but that's really important to gather that feedback so that we're trying to bring candidates to you that are close to a match of the qualities that you're seeking, and that can be your next leader for the next however many years. Anyway.
So, Jed, so did you say that based on all that input that you got from the community and from us so far, that's where a lot of some of the questions that you gave us came from? Or some
Oh, yeah.
Some of them
Absolutely.
are standard,
Absolutely.
I know that, but
Yeah, absolutely. So I took your characteristics and I folded in some of the community ones and theme areas. I had stuff in it. Those theme areas that you saw in there, they were generated from the input that was so that's where that came from. And then just the sampling of questions you got, there's literally hundreds of each of those areas. Tried to pick some that were at least a good starting point. And then from that, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so then the other thing I wanted to do briefly was just review the timeline because that's important for all of us here and then also for the few, the folks that are going to watch this meeting online.
excuse me 1 second, Madam Secretary, you registered that this is office here.
Yes.
Welcome.
So when we determined our timeline some time ago, this was all things that have already happened. I don't need to go over that much as it's in there. And then this is what is yet to happen. We have preliminary, well, the applicant screen has happened, is ongoing. I will say, we compressed a 2 to 3 week process into 2 days. So seriously, when the position closes and when you have to have everything ready for a board meeting and you have to go through and get the candidates there, not that we weren't doing some screening along the way, but generally with McPherson and Jacobson, when a position closes before this meeting tonight.
Wow.
So I'm patting Barry on the back, and he can pat me on the back. But
We're a little tired.
when you see what we have later on when we start reviewing candidates. But then we have tonight ahead of us, or what's ahead of us, candidate interview next week. I think we identified May 3rd. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
I just didn't put it up here because these are all still subject to change. And then also we finalists on the week of May 8th, and I think it's the 11th is the day that we
That's the day we
set aside.
sort of decide so far, yeah.
And then selection of candidate, that's hopefully soon after. Hopefully very soon after. So that's just a quick review, and this is a lot to digest, and the temptation is gonna be what I already saw, is when you start looking at the comments, you're gonna, something, oh, who said that? Who's that coming from? I understand that, 'cause that's natural. And then again, I just have to reiterate that, I might have missed something here and there. I did my very best to make the judgment of where I went, and it's transparent. This is, there's nothing to hide. This is what people said about HUSD.
Board members, you want to make a few minutes of this right now?
Yeah.
How do you want to go on this? Yeah, well,
2 more minutes.
Long time. What's that? Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Feel like we've gotten a sense at least. We have. These are posts, right?
Yeah. So as you looked at the themes in those 4 questions, were there any major surprises in the theme area, not the one-offs? But if you were to guess ahead of time what you thought the themes might be, is that where the community landed or were there surprises?
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, I think so too.
You know, I want to make just a quick postscript. You know, we always look for ways to improve a continuous improvement model. Maybe a little dated, but I always evaluate what we do. I felt we had better success probably at the elementary schools. We did a small group settings and faculty meetings kinds of, you know, it's hard when outside people, they don't know what they're about, but I felt we were very welcome and people opened up and, you know, post-COVID too, you know, people don't tend to congregate in big groups anymore. So we use, say, at the middle and high, more of what we call, you know, the prep period model where we were available. And so, you know, people used to meet in the faculty meetings and eat lunch you know what, that, they don't do that anymore. And so, maybe to do over again, I would probably, I was at the high school and he told me I could come into the faculty meeting, but they had a testing, protocol meeting. And boy, he had a full agenda and I told him, no, I didn't want to, I passed out my forms and so we were good there. You know, we probably had a little lesser response, you know, in our community forum because I had a bad weather night and it was cold. I mean, so overall, a little bit, our numbers were down a little bit. But I think the comments were very genuine overall, and it's just that helped us develop, you know, question development. And the other thing is, you know, for me, it was fun being back at campus, and I went out every passing period, and you know what happens during passing period in middle school. And then I was there at before school and after school in the elementary, and you know, you forget how crowded and traffic patterns, and so, you know, I really enjoyed the week and culminating with the forum. So I think there's a lot of good information, and please take some extra time to, you know, to finish it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it seems to me that it is pretty much what you probably expect. You know, the current, you know, 2023 climate, all that's gone on in the last few years, it's colored by that. You know, this would have looked very different and very different 3 years ago. But nonetheless, there's a real diverse set of opinions in here. And that does kind of represent Prescott Valley. With some strong common themes, certainly.
And I left Kate with some extra copies. If the members of the public want to come in, you know, they can see them, and nothing to hide. It's all.
Cool. Well, then, in that case, we can move on to personnel item 4A, which is discussion possible approval of interview strategies, question content, and schedule for initial interview with applicants.
I'll start off and again hand it over. This is a little tricky in open session for me. I'm going to be honest, and I'm more used to doing this in closed session. And I know we have an opinion that should be an open, and so I'll abide by that. So really, thematically, areas.
Can I clarify for me? Yeah, because it's not an unapproved reason to do an executive session. So,
Questions are going to be asked, they're just supposed to.
yes.
Yeah, well, I'll interject, because I'm only going to talk about top level areas. I don't believe that we need to get into specific questions for that reason. So we'll keep going in the conversation.
And because that's a
Just to understand, we have a legal opinion on it from our, and it's clear, actually, if you look at statute. I know, I don't love it either, but that's statute.
All right, but yeah, we're not going to do the exact questions, and that's fine, but otherwise it's in.
Yeah, and we appreciate all the board members responded to the judge questionnaires, and again, we keep going over this, and it's very important. But there's a point in time where, you know, he and I have to finalize it and get some direction too, a little bit on timeframes within the interviews, because that also will dictate how many questions you as a board members feel comfortable asking, say in the round 1 or in the round 2. And so we need a little direction with that, because, you know, an hour, you want to go hour and 20 minutes, you want to go hour and 10 minutes, you know, whatever your pleasure is, but that helps us kind of narrow down, you know, questions with response time. So that's good. That's a critical piece. Any thoughts?
Well, obviously, that's going to depend somewhat on how many candidates we screen out and how many.
That's true.
I think typical interview 45 minutes to an hour is kind of standard, especially for the first one.
especially.
I would agree, and I would say that, I would like it to be an hour. I think that gives ample time. People oftentimes feel rushed. And I think that, based on the questions, I don't even know what they are yet, but we want to make sure to give them time to share their thoughts. So an hour, I think is good. Being that I just did 2 rounds of principal interviews that were 45 minutes, and most everybody was down to the second of that 45 minutes. This is for a superintendent position. I feel that it's appropriate to say 1 hour.
I think that's fair. I'd like to be sure, not fair to make it sure. For the candidate.
For the initial one.
So then, I'll be, again, like I said, so if we choose, deciding to interview 7 people. Now,
Nope, that's it.
that's 7 hours.
Yep.
Interviews, not including
Discussion.
discussion.
Did we decide on 2 days though? Because I thought we did the 3rd and 4th.
We did not,
We blocked out the 3rd and 4th.
we discussed that, but, the one is on Friday,
Nope.
I think it's a
Thursday.
Thursday.
so that's the first thing. I cannot do it. So you have to figure something else out. Yes,
I've always been a hand raiser.
please. Yes, Jen.
I might recommend that, I don't know how we can do it with the agenda that we're in the middle of right now. But this part of the discussion might be more fruitful after you've had a chance to do that.
Yep,
To make some of those, and then it is on the agenda to come back to talk about
Yes.
what we do. But it might be better after you get a sense of the applicant pool to decide what that next step looks like. Even though we preliminarily, and we have, subject to change timelines.
Right.
That's just where I'm coming from. And then if you don't mind, I'd like to talk about the process for developing interview questions. Is that would it be appropriate now?
Please.
So what you have is when you saw the theme areas and the questions on the areas, and now that you've had a little bit of time to look here, some of it should make a little bit more sense of where those questions came from. So you can see the direct match to one-to-one. And what I propose is, in a similar way, just individually, you saw a whole list of questions and then you weighed in on ones that you like, 2 or 3 or 3 or 4, and then I've collated those. And I'd like to collate those and send them back out for another prioritization. And then I would like to ask for professional trust with Barry and I to develop interviews. So that way, candidates, I don't mind divulging the theme areas, but individual questions doesn't seem, we've all interviewed for jobs. It'd be nice to have the interview ahead of time.
Yeah, I agree.
That doesn't feel genuine to the process.
No.
So if you are comfortable with that, same things, you've all weighed in. Thank you very much. I know how busy everybody is, and I've tried to make it really simple to go through. I don't know how long it actually took. I did it, I think, about maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And now, then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna bubble up the ones that were reviewed. And then I'm gonna limit your choices. And so that we now get a good prioritization, and then those will be ones that we choose from to be able to come in and build an interview that will be representative of all of this and some prioritization from you as board members. Because otherwise, we've done this, we have plenty of, I have a whole folder of community interviews at superintendent and everything. We could just go plug one of those and make it, but I'd rather have it be authentic and genuine to what we've seen here and developed around the characteristics and themes. And that's, I do enjoy this part of it. I just don't want to say, we're going to ask you this.
Right.
So, yeah, so.
Does that process sound like a?
That sounds
Board
great.
members, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what, Jen, that's exactly how, I've seen it done to avoid the problem of having the questions already in advance. It's just the way Arizona's open meeting law is written, but basically, that's exactly how I've been a part of that process before, and that's how we did it. So I think that's a great idea, if everyone else thinks it's a great idea.
So I'll lop off a few of the ones that got zeros. So you won't see as many questions and you're gonna get choices so that we can try to bubble up. That makes sense?
Yes, thank you.
And then Mary and I, Dr. Gabriel and I will, we will develop interviews based on the time frame and what we decide after we have a chance to vet the candidates for it.
Sounds good.
And if we do a Zoom on one around what? You know, an hour, you know, even for you, so, you know, look at it, it's hard. That's not easy to do. In person, it's a little different. You have a different dynamic. And so, you know, we have to keep those time constraints a little bit in our brains because, you know, that could be a long time of watching people talk. I'm just, I'm not in it, so I understand.
Well, I think yeah, if you have questions that, are thoughtful and intentional, I think that the right candidate will engage us and it won't seem like an hour.
Good, you're right.
And by the same token, if you're not, then maybe it won't take an hour.
Right.
And
We
we'll
could
be
get
done in
through,
40 minutes. and
we
we'll
could
say
get
thank you
through
very
all the
much,
questions, yeah.
and you can leave.
I just didn't want to, if somebody really, you know, was, a person who had, thoughtful contribution to this process, I didn't want to cut them off in 45 minutes and say, okay, time's up. Thank you for your time.
All right, so I think we've covered 4A.
Yep.
And, I don't think we really have to have a motion for that. We can, but I don't think we have to. There seems to be a consensus that we're going to go ahead with the process that Dr. Bowman stated. Right? Yep. Mhm. Yeah, I would prefer an action myself, actually. As long as everyone feels like we have a strong consensus, it seems that. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Moving on, personnel item B.
I would respectfully request that we do go into closed session or executive session.
Oh, this one will be going into executive session. Yeah. And this is certainly allowable under Arizona ODA law. Possible executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A1, discussion and review of candidates for the position of superintendent. I move that we go into executive session for that purpose. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Gonzalez. I made the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Are we gonna remain in here? No.
We're moving.
No, we're gonna move.
You know,
on. Yeah.
Go to
All right, sure.
Go ahead and let's just stop.
You can do that.
Let's